They say that one voice can change a room. And if one voice can change a room, it can change a community. And if one voice can change a community, it can change a county. And if one voice can change a county, my God, it can change a state. And if one voice can change a state, we know it can change a nation.
Yeah.
And if one voice can change a nation, Lord, it can change the world. Your voice, that one voice, raised in moral dissent. As I stand here today, I'm thinking about a story of a man who's considered the great dissenter. Justice Harlan of the U.S. Supreme Court during the late 1800s often cast the lone dissenting vote in some of the most important Supreme Court cases of his time. One of those cases was Plessy v. Ferguson, which upheld legal and racial segregation. In that case, Justice Harlan, in an 8-1 decision, one vote, stated that there's something morally wrong with America, and that separate but equal is not equal. Now, Justice Harlan did not win that vote at that time, but he won history. One vote raised in moral dissent. I know this as I come to East Tennessee today because I know about that one vote cast in 1920, on August 18th, 1920. A vote that gave women the right to vote throughout this nation, cast by a 23-year-old representative from right here in Iota, in East Tennessee, who got a letter from one person, that person being his mother, who told him to be a good boy and pass the amendment. And with that, in the 11th hour, this avid, this stern anti-suffragist representative cast the deciding vote that gave women across this nation the right to vote. One vote, one voice, raised in moral dissent. These one voices of moral dissent can start movements also. I know this because I went down to Alabama this past summer, and as I was in Montgomery, I remember the story of this one woman who sat on a bus and was told to get up, and who used her voice to just say one word: no. 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 One voice raised in moral dissent that launched a movement to challenge Jim Crow head on. For those of you who are going to be going to church tomorrow, there's another voice of moral dissent. And I want to talk a little bit about when this movement started. A lot of people are asking us, when did this movement that you're talking about, this moral movement, this dissent movement, when did this start? Did it start when the legislators denied in Church in the Sea? Did it start in the 60s? No. This movement started when one man went down to Pharaoh and told Pharaoh, "Pharaoh, let my people go." One voice raised in moral dissent. And so, moral dissent, we know we come from a tradition of moral dissent, and it's not only the call of our past, it's a call that we're continuing to fight for today. Last year, as I sat in the legislature as a student at Fisk University, just going down to see what was going on, having no idea what Insure Tennessee was, I sat in the committee room and spoke to people who were in the gap, people who had been denied health coverage and were simply trying to survive, people like Mr. Larry Drain, who was separated from his wife just so she can keep her health insurance, people like Mr. Joe Farmer, who had worked all his life and simply because he got an injury had to quit his job and now was suffering needlessly because he did not have health insurance. And as I was at this committee and saw the committee kill this bill, I was really moved within myself because I saw these legislators as the people who were in the gap were crying, breaking down, and asking what can they do. I saw these legislators, yes, many of them Republican, walking out this committee, giving each other high fives, laughing, saying, "Good job." And I thought to myself, my Lord, who would want your children to suffer needlessly like this? We are called to raise a moral dissent in cases like that. We are called to raise a moral dissent when it's easier to access a gun than it is to vote in this state.
Yeah.
When we're expanding access to these things and yet denying access to health care, voting rights, living wage jobs, we are called to raise a moral dissent. And moral dissent is much more than just casting our vote. That is the first step, yes. But we have to disrupt a system that continues to cause needless suffering, that continues to abuse its power. Like, just because they have a supermajority does not mean that you can abuse the rights of the vulnerable. That's not how it works, in this country at least. And so we are called today to raise a moral dissent and to take a stand. My grandma always told me, as I was growing up, as someone who grew up during the Civil Rights Movement, she said, Justin, the struggle for freedom is never ending. It must be fought and won in each generation. And no more could I see this more true today than in a situation where everything that my grandmother fought for is being taken away. It's our time now. It's our time now when we see a candidate, I'm not going to name names, but a certain candidate who has a bad wig and who's trumping his competition, getting to the top of the polls, though his rhetoric is hate speech. And he has no experience when it comes to public policy. It is our time now. It's our time now when we have a legislature more concerned with serving special interest groups than it is concerned with helping the people it was sworn to uphold and protect, the people who are considered their constituents. It's our time now. It's our time now when we continue to regress. Please don't fall, but we know you're okay.
All right.
Because that's what's happening so often. They're making people fall down. They're bringing people down. And so when somebody falls down, we have to start lifting people up. And that's the thing that I think the other side forgets is that a rising tide lifts all ships. It's so much of what we're hearing at the legislature today is all about me, mine, anti-this, anti-them. I don't want to be with them. And we have to be prepared for those sort of divide and conquer tactics. Because that's what's really going on today. And what they're really fearful of at that legislature, I've been there for 3 years and I know I finally realized it, is this coming together with this. When I come together with you and you come together with me, Lord have mercy, they cannot win. Which is why we see them passing restrictive voter ID laws, because we saw what happened in 2008 when people like me and you came together, people of all races, of all generations, of all different regions of the state, rural, urban, suburban, all people coming together, we saw what could happen. And that's what we're called to do today. There's something greater than the fear that they preach. It's called hope. There's something greater than their hateful rhetoric. It's called love. There's something greater than injustice, and it's called justice, and we must speak out for it. And so that's what our call is today. There's a great woman in here who I cannot go without mentioning, Miss Pam, standing right here.
Yay!
Who I see every day at the legislature, who's always there, who's walking across the state. When I get older, I hope I can do that. I'm just gonna say, I hope that I can have your passion, your fire. Because there's times Miss Pam calls, I know you're like 2 hours ahead of me, and she's still calling, and it's 11 o'clock where I am, so that's like 1 o'clock here. And so, Miss Pam, thank you. But Miss Pam, as we know, and we talked about this is a movement that will require everyday people coming together. There's a story in the Bible where Moses was standing at the rock, and he had a staff. And as long as he had his staff up, Israel was winning the war. But Moses' hands started getting tired at points. And so Sarah came and helped lifted his hand up to keep that staff up. We need people who can help Miss Pam lift her and keep her staff up. We need people who can help her hold so that we can get victory. Because this is not a moment, this is a movement. It's not a sprint. I used to run track. This is a relay. And we're going to have persistence. Because there's another story in the Bible. I think it's one of the saddest stories. And I wrote down where it was. And it's in the book of Psalm 78:9. And this is a story where And just so y'all, I'm actually planning to go to divinity school, so that's why I'm using all these references. This is all I've been studying all week, so I thought it was perfect. There's a story in the Bible of the men of Ephraim in Psalm. And Ephraim, they had everything they needed to fight. But the reason why I think this is one of the saddest stories is because Ephraim refused to fight. God gave them everything they needed. They had all the weapons, everything that they needed. And yet, they did not fight. Let that not be us. Let that not be us. Because we have everything we need. We may not have millions of dollars, but we have the voices of everyday people in this state who are tired of business as usual, who are tired of a legislature that continues to ignore their everyday needs. These are the needs that are on the paper that was passed out before you. Not only are these the needs, but friends, I can sit down because these are our marching orders. This is a checklist that we can go one by one and say, is this being met today? When it comes to civil rights, when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to environmental justice, workers' rights. This is our marching orders. And so, I hope this session when we're down there, if you can't make it down there, mobilize in the community here. Let Senator Bell, Representative Madlock, let them know that people in this county are raising a moral dissent. Go to the hospitals in these surrounding counties that are at risk of closure. Hold prayer vigils. Speak up and speak out. Be amongst the suffering and amplify their voices. And there's three things that I just want you to remember that we can do today. It's kind of a strategic plans that we can have as just everyday people. And the first of these is that we need to start telling our own story. We need to start telling our own story. And by this I mean that we need to start telling the people's story of what's going on. Ensure Tennessee is not going to be passed because of Governor Haslam, though we're thankful he introduced it, or even our minority of Democratic legislators. It's going to happen because everyday people are mobilizing and putting pressure and will not let up. We need to tell the story of the people who are walking through the counties, people who up and over in Northeast Tennessee just a few days ago were protesting when Speaker Harwell came to visit. We need to tell the story of Larry Drain, who every day for 2 years has written a letter, every single day. This is how we're going to tell the people's history. The other thing we need to do is we need to redefine what is deemed politically possible. A lot of people are saying, we were at a dinner last night, and everyone's saying it's not politically possible to get Ensure Tennessee past this session. Maybe a few years, maybe when we get a new president, maybe 10 years, whenever. And each day that we wait is another day that our neighbors, 280,000 of them, have to wonder if they should pay for their groceries or pay for their prescription. Each day we wait is another day that our neighbors have to sell pastries just to pay for their cancer medicines, just like Tracy Foster from Clinton. Each day that we wait is another day that Larry Drain has to call his wife just to check on her because he can't live with her, even though she suffers from constant seizures, and just make sure she's okay. We have to redefine the political timetables and let them know that that's not acceptable to us. Next year is not going to work. This should have been done, and it's going to get done. And as Fannie Lou Hamer said, move on over, or we'll move on over you. Because we're moving on. Moving on over. And so we're going to keep on moving. And so what else? The third and final thing we have to do is that we have to realize that there comes a time where we must engage in direct actions to create tension and draw a moral witness to these crises we face today. We need to make them uncomfortable. I know a lot of people are fearful of the word tension. Even some of our students. Justin, we're going to go and sit in where? For the first time in my life, last session, Ms. Pam, Ms. Cater were there. We committed with the clergy to get arrested. Because there comes a time where you must take a position that is neither safe, nor convenient, nor political, but one which conscience tells you is right. And I always say that Ensure Tennessee is this sort of moral litmus test for our state. It's not an issue of left or right, but an issue of right or wrong. And so we need to take direct action. We need to put pressure. We need to go to Senator Bell's office and say, we're not going to leave today until you meet with us. We need to let them know that we, the people, own that house where their offices and everything that they have is. That we can go there. We pay their salaries. And we pay their transportation costs. Whatever they need, we are their employees. And so we need to start engaging in direct actions. There's a story of Henry David Thoreau. When he was in jail for protesting the United States entry into the Mexican War, supporting slavery, Henry David Thoreau refused to pay his taxes. I'm not saying refused to pay your taxes. I think that's the other dude who was saying that. But what he went to jail, and his friend Ralph Waldo Emerson, any literature people, he's a great writer, and he went and visited Henry in jail, and he said, "Henry, what are you doing in there?" And Henry looked up, sitting in his cell, he's been there for a few days, ragged, and he looked up at Ralph Waldo Emerson and said, "Ralph, the question is, what are you doing out there?" In the face of so much injustice, someone must raise a moral dissent and give a moral witness so that when history comes down and sees that in the face of all what's going on, that love had a witness, that truth had the witness, that though they have a super majority now, we know a supernatural God. And through him all things are possible. And we know that regardless of your temporary power today, because that's what it is, it's temporary. It's temporary. Mm-hmm. That the people are the constant in this equation. I'm horrible at math, Ms. Penny. I'm sorry, our master has a master's in math, but there's a constant in the equation. I was hearing something like that. I think that's what the people's position is. We're the constant. We're the unchanging variable. No matter who's elected, you swear to uphold the Constitution for all people. You swear to protect the general welfare, the common good. That's what they swear to do. And so that's what we're called to remind them of. And so this session, we will be engaging in acts of direct action and drawing attention to these things. If they refuse to pass in Church Tennessee this year, it's not going to be quiet as it was last year. We will be there every single day. Every Monday, we will engage in acts of civil disobedience with the clergy. And we hope that you join them. We hope that you're there and that you speak up and speak out and issue a moral dissent, because one voice can change a state. Thank you.